There's a monster in Call of Duty, and I want to see it. Ah yes, here he is. Sergei Kozin, the monster of Magadan. What a strong and beautiful man. Sergei, no. Well, there's another monster in Call of Duty that I also want to see. A big one. But it'll be harder to find. It only appears on round 50 on Zetsubou no Shima. Much like that one Sarah Michelle Gellar quote, I believed that this giant monster Easter egg was something that I'd never see, that only the most hardcore of players would get to experience it. But that was years ago. Now I'm determined to see it for myself. To start, I looked up the round 50 speedruns on this map to get an idea of how long it would take. I didn't think I'd be getting any world records, but I figured I could do it in about twice the amount of time that these guys took. Now the smart thing to do would be to study high round strategies and refresh myself on the map, but I'd rather not. I want to do it from memory. I remember there are two popular training spots on this map, the Skull Room and the Boss Room. I, of course, would be going for the latter. All you gotta do for this Easter egg is find 3 gears, it's easy. Now the first thing I have to do is pick my gobblegums. We're going all megas here, I'm talking round robin, power vacuum, undead man walking, raindrops, and of course Perkaholic. Now to start the match, and to try and get Perkaholic as soon as Stock option? Why did I get a stock option? Oh. No matter, I will push on. I try to maximize my points by shooting the zombies in the leg 8 times. Quick Revive was dropped into the next room, which is a pretty cool detail on this map that I had forgotten about. But I went and grabbed that right away. I was also planting as many seeds as I could in hopes of getting that AA shell as early as possible. And thanks to that shield video I made recently, I was able to remember where the shield parts were. I turned on the power in the first building, but I did not remember to get more water before I turned on the second one, so I had to run all the way back for more. I got the second building powered up and opened the bunker door, where I would encounter not 1, but 2 thrashers. Thankfully, they're easier to kill than I remembered, but they're still really dangerous if you get too close. I built up as many points as possible and returned to the bunker to get the power on. I was pretty certain it was through this door, but it was not. But at least I could check the symbol on the altar down here. I could have opened up the correct door, but I chose to get an HVK instead and come back for the power later. The next round was a spider round, which was great because I could get the serum for the KT4, except the power was off and I couldn't lower the cage, so I opted to come back when the power was on. I realized later that I could have just turned it back on right then and there with more water. At the end of the next round, I grabbed an anywhere but here and went to turn on the power. This part has always been really scary to me, and I was prepared to use that gum to get out of the power room, but it turned out alright. I was pretty proud of myself for surviving this part without the gobblegum, but then I found out that the round was actually not almost over, so I had to use it anyway. At the actual end of the round, I returned to turn on the power and to get Juggernog. Next I got the shrine opened up so that I could start cleansing skulls. The first one went fine, but I was running low on ammo in my HVK, and this Thrasher did not help. Neither did the second one that forced me to use anywhere but here again. But it did take me right to the next altar that I needed, so that was nice. The responsible thing to do would have been to not start cleansing the skull, but I got a little cocky and ended up taking it down because of it. It was close, but I got out and finished the round, and miraculously, the skull had actually finished cleansing so I didn't have to do it again. On the way back to the shrine, I stumbled across this second shield piece and I realized that I should probably build that. I could have opened up the room with the last piece, but I opted to go for the box for a better weapon. I got the ICR from there, and I also got the Razorback from a plant, which was pretty good for building up points. And while doing so, I got this part for the KT4. I repurchased Juggernog, opened this door for the last shield part, and then opened this door for the third altar. I was nervous about doing this one, but the Thrasher kept knocking over the zombies, which made it easier. And then I noticed this part for the gas mask, which I had completely forgotten about. I finished up this round by building the shield, which is something I should have done before the last altar, and then I got spiders for the next round. This time I would get the serum, but while I was right here I wanted to return my skull and get the last one, as well as check my trials, which weren't that bad. I should have gotten the water the same plant 3 times one done sooner, but I was managing a lot. I got the serum, but I couldn't afford the door for the last KT4 part, so I moved on to round 12, where I would finally water a plant 3 times. At one point I saw this max ammo that I really wanted, but I got a little too greedy and went down trying to go for it, which was another 3,000 point setback. After getting my 2 perks back, I had enough to open up that one door to get the last part for the KT4. Now that I had it, I figured I'd have an easier time surviving. Then I opened this door to get the second Pack-a-Punch part. Now I just had one more piece to find to unlock the Pack-a-Punch, and I just could not remember where it was. I could have sworn it was on a shelf or something in this room, but I couldn't find it anywhere. But I didn't need it right now anyway, so I decided to look for it later. On round 13 I got stamina because I was getting tired of running around so slowly, and on 14 I went to activate this door Easter egg. and that's when I noticed this piece of the mask as I walked past, which I would return for later. Now I needed the last Pack-a-Punch part, and I wanted to find it for myself, but after having searched for so long, I finally gave in.
Hi guys, Mr. Waffles here. No nonsense, straightforward, Pack-a-Punch unlock guide for Zetsubou no Shima.
And then I needed the last mask part, which I could have sworn was in this building.
Hi guys, Mr. Waffles here.
Then I got double tapped to help with the last altar, but I just could not remember where it was.
And you'll find yourself in the room with all of the propeller traps, all of those.
I finished up the last skull and I was going to take it back to the shrine, but it was a spider round. Spiders aren't that tough, so I thought I could take on the big spider and finish off the little ones on my way out of the cave. But boy was I wrong. Those spiders followed me down into the lair and I was not doing as much damage as I thought I would. The whole thing was just a mess that would end my game on round 16. Remember how some of those round 50 speedruns were only an hour? Well, it took me that long just to get to 16. But to be fair, way too much of that time was spent looking for parts. The main takeaway from this first game is that the setup is brutal. So much of the map has to be opened up to complete all the necessary steps, so I needed to come up with a strategy. I'm thinking, start with the shield parts and get the power on in both buildings to get into the bunker. Get the last shield part, build it, turn on the power, and get Juggernog. The serum and the vial for the KT4 could be grabbed whenever, but I'd get the last piece after getting Juggernog. Same goes for the mask, Pack-a-Punch, and the altars. Huh, that worked out pretty well. Okay, let's back up a bit and go over what else happened. I had some rather easy challenges, one of which I did while turning on the power. I got a dingo from the box on my first spin, which is probably the best weapon I could have asked for. Whenever I wasn't getting parts or doing an altar, I spent most of my time here at Lab B. It's pretty spacious and it has a lot of routes to take in case one gets blocked, which is pretty nice. There was also some water nearby, which I used to finish my second challenge. And on round 12, I had finished the last altar and got the Skull of Non-Sopway, so I could officially start the main quest. After revealing the poster and the elevator, all I really had to do was get the 3 gears. But that's easier said than done. Luckily I had an anywhere but here, which I immediately used to get the first gear, and then I spent the next couple of rounds growing some plants with blue water for the AA shell. Also on round 14, I upgraded my dingo so that I could fight the giant spider. I took it down during the fight, but I did beat her this time and claimed her tooth, although buying the perks again would be a bit of a setback. Starting the next round, I would start harvesting my blue plants, but unfortunately I wasn't having much luck. But it was okay. It was only round 15 and I had plenty of time to keep trying. I decided to work on my last challenge, kill 30 zombies with the plane trap. Sounds easy, I thought. I just have to round them up and run them through the trap. But as it turns out, they really like to respawn on the other side, which made things pretty tricky. I ended up having to use it 3 times to kill all 30 zombies. But it's fine because now I can electrify the shield. I first used it to get the second part for the Moss Immune. Then I went back and got another charge to get the second gear on the dock. This part makes me really nervous. I really didn't want to fall into the water and waste all the time I had spent setting up. Oops, I guess I got too nervous and hit the button too late. Everyone always says to spam the button, so I guess I'll try that. I got another charge on the shield, went back and spammed the button this time, starting a little earlier than last time.
Soars so high, he holds no fear of height.
Huh. Okay, so I did some research, and apparently it's the melee button, not the action button.
Of wind in face.
Okay, so I did some more research, and apparently you can do it from the other side of the zipline. I've never seen this done before, and it sounds way too easy, so it's probably not true.
A shortcut to our destination. Rapid egress from our enemies.
Sure. I'll take it. Okay, 2 gears down, 1 to go. Time to grow some more plants. So on round 22, I remembered that the 3rd reward is a 5th perk slot, so I took that. On 23, I put an AAT on my gun because those are the key to high rounds. On 26, I got bored of farming and decided to start growing the Moss Immune plant. And on 27, I started a normal plant with the rainbow water just to see what would happen. On 29, I upgraded the KT4 to the Moss Immune, and on 30 I met... Henry. Oh look, tenacity and grit. Hey, I don't know if you've noticed, but I haven't gotten that AA shell yet. I've been planting so many seeds, but I was starting to doubt that I would get it. I did get an imprint plant, which was nice, but no shells. I was prepared to do all 50 rounds under Lab B since I just wasn't getting what I needed. But then I remembered something. I wasn't fertilizing the seeds. So I kept going, this time remembering to fertilize the plants. But on round 38, with over 100,000 points, I decided to let Henry have the zombies that I could try for monkeys. I got those pretty quick, so I kept spinning for the marshals, which I remember being really good, but I settled for a brecci, which I put fireworks on. I wanted to spice things up a little, so I thought I'd try running trains in the skull room. I know it's risky, but other people like it, so I figured it's worth a try, but I don't like this. Yeah, that didn't last long. I used my anywhere but here to escape, which thankfully put me right by Juggernog, and from there I got the rest of my perks back. I also wasn't super fond of the Brecci after all, so I went back to the box, and this time I got the Marshals, and I went ahead and put dead wire on those bad boys. On round 40, I would finally get the AA shell from a plant, allowing me to shoot down the plane and get the last gear. I grabbed a lucky crit, and I was ready to take on the boss fight. I was nervous. I spent so much time getting ready for this that I was already almost at my round 50 goal, but it had to be done. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. The Marshals one-shotted the spiders, so it was pretty easy to keep them out of my way, but the Masamune did all the heavy lifting. It made quick work of all the enemies, and its ability to stun Thrashers meant that I wasn't so worried about getting cut off. I finished the fight without any issues, killed Takeo, and was finally done setting up. It just took 40 rounds to do. Now all I had to do was run circles for another 10. The rounds went by a lot quicker down here. The only real issue is that there are no resources, but I just used the spider rounds to go back up and get what I needed. But on round 47, I got a little greedy going for some drops and got caught lacking. In my panic, I ran back to the elevator, and this is when I started to realize that camping here was viable, but I wouldn't quite get it yet. I bought back as many perks as I could, but I couldn't get all 5. Quick Revive was gone, and Mule Kick and Widow's Wine were too risky to go for mid-round, so I went back down with just 4. Foolishly, I tried running trains again, but I would very quickly get caught. I was able to use my in plain sight to avoid the down this time, but I wouldn't last much longer. I still had one more trick up my sleeve, the imprint plant. But in case you had forgotten, I had gotten the Marshals and the Monkey Bombs after I imprinted, so those were now lost. I wish that I could have done it after the boss fight with all the perks, but at least I was alive. Thankfully, I came out close to the end of the round, and this time I had wised up and started camping. The Dingo was actually pretty good for it, probably better than the Marshals would have been. But once again, it was the Masamune that was doing all the heavy lifting. I wasn't trying too hard to conserve ammo, partially because I really didn't want them to get too close, but also because I only had to go 2 more rounds anyway. And I did it. I made it to 50. I knew that the monster didn't always appear right away, but that you would hear it when it did show up, so I stayed in the basement to make sure I didn't get killed before I had a chance to see it. After a minute or so, I took the elevator back up and ran over to Lab B where it spawns, but it wasn't there. I did several loops to keep checking, but I just didn't see it. I was starting to panic, and I even took it down because of it. At first I thought maybe you had to be on the surface when the round started for it to spawn, so I did 2 more rounds, but it still didn't appear. I would check several more times before giving up and letting the game end. I was devastated. I spent 3 hours getting to round 50, and I didn't even get to see the monster. I went back through the footage just in case I missed it in game, but it wasn't there. But I noticed something that happened right after getting to round 50. I think you can hear it for just a second. I must not have heard it over everything else, but I think it did appear and had left by the time I went up. Now my friends, I must confess that I almost called it here, but then I thought no. No. It was not enough to get to round 50. I needed to see this monster with my own eyes. So I started again. Same strategy as before, but a little more refined since I had it all memorized this time. Challenges were a little tougher, one of which was to eat a fruit, but I got them all done nice and early. No Dingo or Marshals this time, but the MX Garand was a good alternative. I killed the spider without taking it down, and got the Masamune before even trying for the AA shell, which I got on round 18 by the way, 22 rounds earlier than last time. I fixed the elevator and did the boss fight on the same round, and by round 19 I was completely set up. Much faster than last time. I would start around by using my upgraded Kuda, which had turned on it. This would clog up the zombies at the end of the hallway, making it much safer for me. Then I would switch over to the MX Garand, which did a lot of damage, and Deadshot would pair nicely with it. I didn't even need to use the Masamune most of the time. These other 2 weapons were just so powerful. Overall, it was really fast.
Need me to spell it out? You're all DEA.
Of course, I still took advantage of spider rounds to get anything I needed, especially to hit the box for monkeys. But I had to be quick because spiders have a tendency to, die. Whenever I saw a drop I wanted, I'd use the Skull of Non-Stopway to push forward and grab it. Max ammos were good, but death machines really came in handy. However, in the 40s, my weapons were starting to take longer to kill, and I would get overwhelmed and downed. There were a couple things I could have done to prevent this, like using my Anywhere But Here or pulling out the skull earlier. I was able to mostly recover though. I lost my Kuda with turned on it, so I wanted to change the AAT on the MX Garand to either turned or dead wire. However, there were too many zombies to comfortably repack, so I tried to kill a couple, but fireworks ended up killing them all, forcing me back down before I was totally ready. I stayed in that hallway as long as I could, but I was running low on ammo and wanted to go somewhere where I wouldn't get cornered. Back to the tried and true Lab B. I also found an imprint plant up here. It must have been from when I was trying to get the AA shell earlier, but I was low on ammo and I didn't want to use it until I got my next max ammo. I was going to use the free one from the pedestal, but luckily the next round was spiders, so I was able to save it. It would have been nice to imprint earlier with all the perks, but at least I had some insurance for the last few rounds. So it turns out that if there's a thrasher on the surface, it won't go down to the basement. You'll have to go back up to kill it. And while I was up there, I opted to spin the box a few more times and got some monkey bombs. And those monkey bombs came in handy when I ran out of ammo on round 48. Thank God I didn't have to use this max ammo reward earlier. At the end of 48, there were no zombies showing up, so I thought I had a thrasher upstairs again. But on the ride up, the round suddenly changed. Fortunately, it was a quick and easy spider round. In this game, I would start round 15 near Lab B, where the monster would spawn. There was nothing there at first, but when I turned my back, I heard it. I looped around, threw a monkey, looked into the distance, and there it was. I stayed as long as I could, watched until I was certain it was gone. I had done it. I saw the monster. I wish I kept track of the time, but I knew it was about a 3-hour game. But half of that time was me setting up for the first 19 rounds, and the other half of the game was the remaining 33 rounds that I played. Thank you all for watching me achieve this goal. That's another one that I can cross off the list, but there are still plenty more to do.